was the best guy around.
What about the people he murdered?
What murder?
Welcome back to the Hishaku Hideout with another episode of Redux. We'll be looking at Volume 3 this time. And just a spoiler warning for any of those who aren't caught up to like recent events in the manga, that we will be discussing things in this volume and how they correlate to future events and making parables and things like that. So just keep in mind that if you haven't read past Volume 3, there will be spoilers for future events. But anyway, what's up, Dice? How you holding up?
Chilling. This was a good one.
Oh yeah, any bocce is good bocce, but it feels like it's been forever, right? You know, with the hiatus, and all that.
Yeah, we've also pushed back this one quite a bit.
Yeah, it's been a minute. We've been owing y'all this one for a while, so we're not gonna upload it as like a members first. We'll just upload it straight, to the channel, and we'll do better with trying to get Volume 4 out quicker.
Yeah, of course. And the reason I say this was a good one is because, we recently dropped a discussion video on Hakuri. It seems like in this volume is when we really start to get a lot of the things that we're seeing come back to relevance in the Seitei War arc.
True, yeah. This is like the beginnings of his character. I mean, quite literally, because he gets, introduced in this volume. But, this volume and next volume are going to be like super heavy for like what Hakuri adds to the team. And I think like Hokuzono has like already showed in this volume that like a lot of the early, a lot of his writing choices early on with Hakuri are things that stick around, like, up until where we're at now, or up until the end of part 1,
Yeah, for sure.
It's like, he's a simple character, but like, he's, executed real well. But, we can get into it and take a look at how his character is introduced. Because, I mean, honestly, Chihiro kind of had a horseshoe up his ass meeting him when he did. But I want to say like one-handed Chihiro had aura with his little flap dangling in the air, for the short-lived moments we got with one hand Chihiro.
Okay, man. I don't know.
That's my guy. That's my one-handed goat.
That aura wasn't exactly what came to mind, but I mean, it's Chihiro. I can't really argue against him when it comes to aura, regardless. So
if there's one thing Chihiro's gonna make sure he does is he's gonna show out with aura.
Yeah.
But I guess we could kind of like just jump straight into it. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, join the Discord. I'll have that link. That link will be in the description below to join the Discord. And, come hang out with us in there. But other than that, I mean, the first thing I think I kind of want to bring up is just how, like, from the beginning of Volume 3 all the way up until the end of Part 1, which Volume 12 should close out Part 1, that there's only, like, a little over 2 weeks go by in that crazy ass range of volumes. Like, I think part 1 is not 12 volumes, and like 9 of them happen in 2 weeks. It's like from volume 3 to 12. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's just insane how much stuff happens back to back to back to back.
Yeah, like, let that motherfucker Chihiro sleep. Man, that boy, they getting it out his ass. But that breakneck speed is what we love bocce for.
Yep.
But now, I mean, I guess, the beginnings of this part where we, left off in Volume 2 was like the introduction of Hiyuki. That's Pookie, Kabunabi's like strongest fighter. I forget exactly the wording they used for it, but,
that's exactly it.
Yeah, seeing where, like, how, if they do good on that promise. And I mean, but funny enough, bringing up Part 2, we could say now that, like, oh yeah, that flame bone ain't nothing to play with.
Or so they say, right?
Right, yeah. 6-month-old Hiyuki slams.
Yeah, and of course, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're good, brother. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, so obviously, Hiyuki is one great introduction in this volume, but of course, before her, Hakuri, who, also steals the show later in this arc, but even in this volume, makes his presence quite felt. I mean, this whole volume really focuses on the beginning of that relationship between him and Chihiro.
Yeah, I think it's like how pathetic he is in a sense.
And boy, is he pathetic, right?
Yeah, I think he would even call himself that because he's like, there's no confidence in himself. Like he even says, like, without a shadow of a doubt, he's the weakest Sazanami to ever be born. Like he doesn't like steer like his focus to try and like prove them wrong. He just wants to like overthrow the Rakuzaichi because of what it means. So even though that like he doesn't have like that urgency to like prove him his strength, it's like he still has this like belief of what's right and what's wrong. And I think like even through like this like I say quote unquote pathetic of a character, he has like flashes of brilliance.
Oh yeah, I mean, we're gonna dog on this guy quite a bit, but you and me, like, we're on the record saying like how much we like Hakuri and his significance to the story, his significance to Chihiro as an ally, and like the potential of his oh man, I said potential. No, but like yeah, the potential of his character and his character arc, right? Outside of necessarily strength wise, but like again what he can bring to the narrative. And yeah, like I also want to highlight, right, like joking aside, that it's also important to like really take in the state that he's in when we meet him, right? Like he talks about losing his pet mantis, and also losing his family, which I think is very interesting how, especially when you have a character like Chihiro and knowing his background, to me, I didn't remember how he phrases that he lost his family, like when it would initially lead you to believe that they like died or they were killed, right? Like a story similar to Chihiro's. But there's also this idea of like him having lost his pet praying mantis, and he says like the only thing you do is you grit your teeth and you just go through it, right? And it's very like, I really like how, again, very Hokazono to introduce his character, and like the one thing he's not doing quite literally is gritting his teeth, because the whatever he's drinking, I think it is just like falling right out of his mouth or whatever. Just like a very ridiculous introduction. But it speaks to not only like Hakuri's character, but also the state that he's in, and we can like microanalyze how that kind of leads to this patheticness that we're talking about, right? But just a really solid introduction all around.
Yeah, and I think that's what I kind of like about this volume. It's like the inklings of what makes Hakuri great. It doesn't pay off in this volume. It's the next volume, but yeah, like we have to start somewhere. It's Facts. Like this is the pathetic Hakuri Sazanami, but once we get to like chapter 35 in the next volume and stuff like that, and we see like the substantial like jump he like makes in terms of strength, just like his capabilities, or like what kind of asset he actually can be, like he really, I mean, the man makes like a crazy 1 volume jump, and it's handled really well, but that it doesn't feel as, or it wouldn't feel as like huge without like these moments of just seeing his character at his kind of like lowest, I guess, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, I mean, he is at his lowest, most definitely.
Oh yeah, and I mean, yeah, he's in there in a diner by himself, just spewing out liquids all over the place. Like that dude's like looking bad off, but considering everything he went through, I mean, like like to think about what he went through with his family and all that, considering like he's not like defeated yet, is still something to be said though. like, he's not just durable physically, but I mean, the kid emotionally went through a lot, and Chihiro's just there to like spark that to light that fire under his ass, and kind of inspire him, and and honestly, Hakuri, Chihiro's done that for Hakuri. Hakuri does that for Chihiro as well. Like they both are in
next
a tandem
volume.
through this.
I was just thinking that next volume, like this volume, it's how Chihiro inspires Hakuri, and I think next volume we see how Hakuri inspires Chihiro, and we get like one of my favorite moments between the two, if not my favorite, how Chihiro like actually acknowledges that.
Yeah, he like thanks him. He's like, and he even like, I mean, we'll talk about that next.
Yeah, we'll
volume,
talk about
like,
that.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
but like, it's funny. Hakuri also is probably the only person that ever tell, especially Orokuhira, that the blade suits them. Like that's Kunishige's line, and he's like,
and and I had that written. I'm sorry, go ahead, go finish your thought.
No, you're good. Like cause I just thought that was so funny to think about. Like we find out with like Uruha, in the next arc.
Yeah, and I feel like that it's like the selection of characters in which this line is kind of shared, right? Like in this instance, it's Hakuri saying it to Chihiro, and then obviously we found out later that way back then it had been Kunishige saying that line to Uruha when selecting him or handing him Kumiyuri. And I feel like it's not like a random incident where like it's Uruha and Hakuri especially, and obviously the fact that it's the opposite where it's Chihiro being told, whereas Kunishige obviously as creator of the blades handing it over, telling that to Uruha. I feel like there is a very interesting kind of like circle there, and it's, I think it's like Hokuzono's writing, just, kind of like at its, I don't want to say at its peak, because obviously like this man can do so much, but it's one of those things that we really appreciate from Hokuzono's storytelling.
Yeah, it's a subtle, it's like a nod to a choice by Hokuzono. Like that we see that they share a chapter cover. It's Uruha saving Hakuri later on in Kabanabe HQ. Like these pieces can be interchanged to his Hokuzono's whims, but like there is the fact that
the parallels.
Like Hakuri meeting Uruha. Like with like the same time that Chihiro's meeting Uruha, and they're talking, they have a discussion about Kunishige. It's just like all these things that kind of just like subtle, like little minor details that kind of just fill up and complete the picture of like, or a couple different pictures for, certain characters. But yeah, I mean,
Uruha isn't even introduced at this point, right? So like, I was about to like keep going, but yeah.
Well, I think that's the beauty of like this, like us going back and rereading like these volumes. It's
facts. That's why we do this.
Like these discussions. It's something that we've probably caught even before we started the Redux series, but it's like batting like different ideas back, basically to how we did with like the chapter reviews, when we started the podcast, to like now go back and like we have hindsight and we have more like we're not like guessing on certain things, we have more like more to grab on in a sense. But yeah, man, Hakuri's just solid. I mean, because like as well, like when he tells him that the blade suits when he tells Chihiro that the blade suits him, it's a moment where like Chihiro is confronted by Hiyuki, which we could talk about her next, that it's like he's using it like self-service, and like as long as someone uses it like that, there'll be more people like Kazane, and like he's challenged with like these like conflicting things he never thought about, like when he started this journey. But now that he sees like exactly what his journey has in store for him, like he does have to start like facing these challenges of like what it means, and Hiyuki is hitting him on all fronts with it. But Hakuri's there to like already left their very first meeting, mind you, he's there to like reestablish like Chihiro's baseline of like his own beliefs in himself, to like trust himself to do the right thing and this, that, and the other, or this, that, and the other. And like, you know, Hakuri already making like payoffs, like literally their first meeting with each other.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to like what we were talking about a bit earlier, and I think the word is really foundation as it relates to Hakuri's character and the impact he immediately makes in the story, and what begins, what plants the seed for like this dynamic with Chihiro. The reason I think what you're talking about really works is because we've gotten enough of a picture at this point, even though it's not a lot really, but we've gotten enough of a picture of what Hakuri has kind of like been through, and like the way he views Chihiro. I mean, right, like the whole samurai thing, like he flat out tells Chihiro like he needs him in his life, right? And he says that it was fate. The fact that they met was fate, and like, boy, was he like on the money, really, because again, like, we'll see just how integral he really is both to Chihiro, and just obviously as integral as like Chihiro was to him in terms of his own character development, right? Hakuri's really been exposed to the underbelly of this world of sorcery, right? So he's really seen it all, or I won't say that, but at least you could imagine what exactly he knows of, or what he's really seen aside from the experiences that we know he's been through because we see them, right? So I think that's why that really works, because you get the quality of Hakuri in that moment, right? Like in the quality of Hakuri's character, and just what exactly he's gonna bring to the table.
And you know, like,
to Chihiro,
it's not just lip service of him just trying to get on, like there's never like an air of like sketchiness from Hakuri, because like we see him like, you know, in the very beginning of the volume, like, talking about, you know, his praying mantis, his family. It's like building up these like tough things to like kind of deal with in life. You know, like just taking that moment for like us finding out the information, like, you know, and for the first time anyway. We see Sojo's about to cook him. He's literally about to kill that whole block. But it's like,
yeah,
he sees why, you know, Chihiro, that blade suits him. You know, it's like, he's not just like giving him lip service. Like, he really means it. Like, no, like, this ain't just the first time you saved me. This is the second time you saved me. And
he
the first
doesn't
time
even...
you saved me, you put every, like, all those strangers' lives, like, ahead of your own.
Yeah.
And, you know, so it's like, you know, it's very subtle. And I mean, we're like sipping the tip for Hakuri pretty hard here. But that, I mean, the front load character work that Hokusono does with Hakuri, it's like that. It's, man, he was cooking.
Well, I mean, and not to like, you know, we had a whole conversation on this, so I really won't hit on this too much. But like, that is exactly why we had that whole video about like why we feel that his presence in the story has just entirely fallen off, because of how much, you know, work there is in regards to his character early on. And you know, he was, go ahead.
Oh no, I'll say, yeah, like, it's starting from here and seeing like the crazy levels he jumped up to, like, you know, in 2 volumes, and then like to almost go like quiet for like a good chunk of the rest of the part 1. You know, is, you know, just to like clarify, like, you know, it did, like, we were hoping for like that growth rate to keep going, or at least just keep being present, I should say. Not, you know, can't expect, you know, this, that, or the other. But, you know, my bad for cutting you off.
No, it's cool. And again, we have like a whole video where we go in depth on that discussion for those that are interested. So yeah, but you know, as again, when it comes to Hakuri, like, he doesn't even know Chihiro's backstory in regards to Enten when he's telling him that the katana suits him, right? Like, we get that whole moment when he's crying afterwards. So again, it just really speaks to Hakuri's character, especially when we've gotten insight of what the Sazanami are like from his perspective, right? But he feels like a reliable narrator at this point because of the way he's being set up, right? We get like the whole panel of, or like the whole exposition dump of how he used to be part of the Sazanami clan, and, you know, those born within the Sazanami clan are trained in sorcery from a young age, and yada yada yada. And we get a panel which I really like, which is like, you see the Sazanami, and they're like faceless, which obviously is something that like Hokazono does a lot. But I feel like here, not only was it like one of the first moments when he's kind of like doing this, but also it's really like on point because of what is being said and the way that the Sazanami family is being talked about. And these guys really just feel like faceless bodies that just carry on, you know, the Sazanami's agenda, especially when it comes to the Rakuzaichi. So just really like, again, you said it, like really subtle stuff from Hokazono that expands, because this is also like when the world of Kagurabachi starts feeling like it's really expanding. The Sazanami clan obviously being like the first prominent clan that we're getting to know, and we're getting this much of an insight.
Facts.
So yeah,
and like the, you know, like the Sazanami, you know, having, I don't want to say like an instrumental role, but like, I mean, just like in their world, like with the Rakuzaichi, which we come to like learn more about later in the volume, which we'll get to. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but you know, like as you said, like they all kind of feel like, you know, just, it's kind of like the whole thing that, you know, I talk about with the clan dynamics. They're just always toxic. You know, like everybody is faceless because it's just what's best for the clan. And, you know, we know that no one's above the Rakuzaichi. That's like the end all be all.
Yeah,
and,
motto.
You know, we'll see like how like how that's you know, Kiora and like, you know, the other siblings as well in the toe like are faced with that reality, and you know, as like the art goes on. But you know, it's just one of those things where it's like they're just kind of brought up in a toxic dynamic, which this whole thing is like, you know, Chihiro was sheltered growing up because he had to be, you know. Now of course, like, you know, Shiba Kunishige did allow Shiba to bring him out, you know, every so often, but for the most part, like Chihiro couldn't really understand, or like, I guess, you know, I'm sure he had like some like idea, but like to see him being like now challenged with a father that is, you know, the 180 of what his father was. You know, I think that's the thing that I've always liked about this arc, is that this arc, you know, does do a lot for Chihiro, obviously, but it's like just it furthers like deepening that reality check. Like Sojo kind of was like that first reality check of like anyone can view your father's work or your father how they want. You know, like, you know, what it means to you doesn't mean the same to me, or they don't mean the same to me. And like we'll see next volume. I think we're so excited for next volume, or at least I am. But like the fact of him like being, even like says something, he's like, a father like this, like, you know, he challenges like, and I think that's just so well done throughout this arc, because when you think about how like Kiora is framed and talked about in the fandom, like people like, you know, have high praise for Kiora. And when you think about him, I mean, he's like the sperm donor to like the main character's right-hand man in a sense of things. But like, and he was just a puppet really, you know, for like the Hishaku. But like what he adds to like opening up Chihiro's eyes and his understanding of like the reality that not every son or not every child has a parent that just accepts them for them, you know, like, and yeah, I think it just kind of plays really, it just was handled really well. And, you know, Kiora he's done, I mean, I even think his like introduction in this volume is like solid as well. Like where the hunters and all that. Like,
yeah, bro. Now that you mention it, the "we're the hunters" line, I'll just say, is forever Kyora's toughest line. Especially like everything leading up to that moment. Oh no, fuck that. Stop it. The "we're the hunters" line to me, bro, is like it's just like the icing or the cherry, you know, the cherry on top, like after he's like really just beaten Chihiro in this game of chess and this like back and forth of who can like, you know, like overstep the other one's or you know, decision making, or however you want to kind of put that into words. But that whole interaction when Chihiro and Shiba pull up is just great. Like they go from the aggressors to the victims, really.
Yeah, they think they got everybody. They have him by like, you know, they got his ass. Like there's nothing he can do. Like, you know, it's an enchanted blade, and when you really like deep it, Kiora Sazanami is just like an old man that can run away. Like he can't use ISO, he can't register them because they can like fight off registration. You know, so like he is vulnerable, but it's how methodical he is.
He's a negotiator.
Like, yeah, he's like, yeah, sure, you can like, you know, torture me. I'll just kill, you know, y'all are heroes. I'll just kill all, you know, a person or, you know, this, that, or the other. It's like he's just very well thought out, and you know. Like, I want to go back a little bit and talk about Hiyuki though.
Well, just before we get into Hiyuki, because I feel like Hiyuki's like we can get into Hiyuki and just like stay on her. So I just want to say about Kiora is like the way I would describe him is really just like as a man, like the epitome of a man exercising whatever leverage he has. Like, and in his case, it's how he's able to essentially beat Chihiro with the storehouse, like have the storehouse beat Enten. Really, obviously, like it's Hakuri, like the whole fact that he literally pulls up Hakuri the moment Shiba pulling up with Soya kind of confirms that Hakuri was the one that had been tipping them off. Obviously, like, but again, it's Kiora exercising his leverage of having Hakuri and being able to trade Hakuri. So I can't really give that whole, you know, that whole fight or interaction between Chihiro and Kiora enough praise, because to me, it's like the beginning of how Kiora begins to cement himself as like a really like a top tier villain in Kagurabachi. All of the villains so far, all of the like main villains have been able to be like, I would say pretty much S tier. And like the whole thing about like the father commentary, which we'll get into like in the next volume, I think all of that is really backed up by Kyora's, by how formidable he is as an opponent. Not just like themes and such, but what can he actually do? And again, the fact that he doesn't have an enchanted blade and he's really just an old man when you think about it, it's just wits, the storehouse, and like how he's able to anticipate his opponent's move. What makes him so goated, man. So yeah, I'm sorry. Let's get into Hiyuki.
Yeah, like no, you're cooking though too, because the man's just calm, cool, and composed all the way through. He's like greeting, you know, his like, you know, family and all that, and, you know, like, which we don't, you know, we'll talk about. I'll wait to talk about like these kids running up to him, calling him father. Like this man was cracking. But,
yeah, and there's more I want to say about Chihiro and Hakuri later on, but so I got a note here, but we'll get into Hiyuki now.
Hiyuki, I mean, sheesh, like her very strong character, whereas like Kiora is, you know, kind of like I don't even know how to phrase it really. Like I guess I'll phrase it like how I think Sojo. I like Sojo more than Kiora, but I think Kiora is, you know, better, is you know, better handled and is a bit better written than like Sojo. But I still like Sojo more because he's a different type of villain, you know.
Yeah, fair.
And you know, the like with Hiyuki, she's kind of like a good in between. Like obviously she's presented as like an opposition to Chihiro, but you know, we know she's not an enemy. But she's kind of like the in between of like Sojo and Kiora in a weird sense, where like she has that like very gravitas, like on panel presence like Sojo does, and very kind of
interesting,
you know, charismatic, you know, but she's also got, you know, she's well articulated as well. Like she knows what she's in control of, like, you know, she isn't thrown off really. Like she's don't get me wrong, she's thrown the fuck off like to fight, but like the challenges that she's like bringing up to Chihiro in their first skirmish, you know, those are like solid arguments. Like she's literally like, you know, presenting him with, and you know, like that's like without Hakuri there, I wonder how that interaction would have went. Like I'm sure Chihiro would have just still tried to fight her, but you know, like, you know, I guess like him fighting from a place of confidence is the difference. Like with Hakuri there to remind him and kind of bring him back, allows him to like fight from a place of confidence, you know, but without Hakuri there, I don't know if he's fighting from a place of confidence. And that's because like Hiyuki is like really like challenging Chihiro on like, you know, his predisposition about like Enten and the Enchanted Blades.
Facts. I mean, really, you know, like that's a very, very good shout, because I hadn't really thought of it. Like I hadn't really thought of that, the way that Hiyuki really kind of continues down that through line that Sojo had presented in the first arc, right? In terms of like building on this idea of what exactly is the Enchanted Blade's place in the world, right? I mean, she literally alludes to Kazane, right? And obviously she couldn't be any more different from Sojo. I do think you bring up some like really good and interesting points in terms of like how, like, you know, they're both characters that really like draw attention on panel. Like they have like a lot of presence, they're very charismatic. She seems to be even more of a battle junkie than Sojo, really. But you know, in an arc where like Kiora is introduced as the main villain, right, succeeding Sojo, it's very interesting how Hiyuki is the one that kind of continues, like I said, building on this this dialogue, right? Like this whole commentary on what is that, like what exactly should be done about the Enchanted Blades. I mean, like you said, we see Chihiro really starting to reflect on that in that clash against Hiyuki. So it's another reason why her character immediately like becomes I don't want to say just fan favorite, but like a really key character to Kagurabachi as a whole and what the story itself is trying to say. So yeah, you know, I read this volume physically, and I can't help but look at the cover and not really trying to read too much into it, right? Because these are like, Hakuri aside, Kiora and Hiyuki are really the two new characters introduced. But I do like how in the reflection of Chihiro holding his blade in the cover, it's obviously Hiyuki and Kiora. And if I was just like to look at those two characters in a vacuum, also like being able to now draw upon like from the Seitei War arc, it's interesting how how Kiora and Hiyuki kind of like are opposites of each other, really, in terms of like Kiora being like the face of a very old school you know, a very old school clan, Hiyuki having like the origins of obviously being like part of a very notable clan, which we have no idea what exactly happens to, but we know what exactly she was burdened with coming into this world, right? And like now having to carry that burden on her shoulders, and really thinking that the Enchanted Blades should not be wielded in the interest of one person, but for the welfare of the nation. Whereas Kiora is this guy that just obviously like he's self-serving, right? And he doesn't want anything really to do with the Enchanted Blades besides just like reap the benefits of auctioning them in his event, right? So yeah, I know, like,
funny considering what Yura was like, glad to get rid of the Rakusaichi, it's like,
yeah, it's interesting, like, right, how many dimensions there are to the whole thing. And when you start looking at agendas and interests of like these individual characters, and it starts getting obviously like very very tricky when Yura is involved, because obviously he's a character that had like very specific intentions, and whose moves, right, like really don't align with that. And obviously we'll get to that down the line, but
that'll be like a year from now by the time we get that video out. But not.
Yeah.
But no, facts, like, this definitely very like thought-provoking, like,
it's good stuff, man.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's the Hiyuki being the almost like, all right, so this is what happened, in the first 2 volumes, whatever it may be, but Hiyuki's like now challenging Chihiro's like sense of confidence on it. Do you understand, like, that this is these things can continuously happen, can continuously keep happening to, like, people who are like technically fighting for justice, like, Hagiwara and Kazane specifically. I do like her, like, that's why I think that her character is very interesting as well. Like, where is she gonna go when we do cut back to, like, present time in the mainline story, and like, where is she gonna go? And it's because of like her very beginning, like her introduction and her first interaction with Chihiro. That's still who she is as a person. You know what I mean? Like, she hasn't been around in the story a whole bunch after this arc. And, I think obviously it's a choice on Hokuzono, because I think he wants like this like beginning, the beginnings of her character to like still ring true. Like, even though like they go through whatever they go through, I think he still wants people to remember, like, oh, like, she's still that person. So it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what where he goes with her character. But and in terms of their fight, I mean, it's a pretty exciting fight considering it's short. I always love to see Akka being used, and it
didn't work.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it shows you like how Flamebone ain't nothing to fuck with, because it didn't even like absorb the entire blow. So like, it's like, it's one of them things where it says like, oh, like, I ain't gonna lie, when I first read it, and it's easy to say now, like, oh yeah, Flamebone, it is equals to Enchanted Blades. Like, I thought that was just one of those things that they say, but like, it just doesn't appear to be the case. But all things presented, it's looking like, it's it's definitely like EB level and not lower EB level. And it's just funny, like, how I like perceived like this fight when I first read it to now is like very different, knowing what we know now.
Yeah, I mean, I think in our stream with No-Op, I think we really I forgot, I think it was you the one that said it, right? But it was put perfectly, whereas like Enchanted Blade level is really like saying special grade now, just because really the level of the Enchanted Blade usage, and not to like really get too deep on this, but it just depends on the wielder and like how far the True Realm is a factor, like how far the True Realm is really how much of the True Realm is accessed, let's put it like that. Really, it's always tricky to talk about, but yeah, what I was thinking about really as it relates to the Flamebone and the Enchanted Blades was this idea that before we obviously knew what we know now, that the Flamebone like was also like made with Datsenseki, essentially, which I'm not exactly sure how many of us were like originally of that mind, just because of the statement of like it being similar to the Enchanted Blades. But really, like, all that statement is that they were just similar in how much of a gap there is between them and just, you know, regular sorcery, which is obviously, you know, what you're talking about. But yeah, it's to me, we have to see like a lot more, because obviously Chihiro's done so much more with N10 since this point, and Hiyuki as well was, you know, she could only use it, what was it, up to the waist
cage or something.
I know ribs is one of the things she summons, but I think Kazan told her up to the waist. It was the end of volume 2. But anyways, we haven't really seen, and much less at this point, the full potential. The torso. Okay.
So no head?
So no. So yeah, she was given you know, access to Flamebone up to the, or permitted, let me say, to the torso. So
I'd be like, fuck Kazan, fuck Kazan. Who are you to tell me? You ain't my mama.
Yeah. So I want to see more from Flamebone, and I really wouldn't be surprised if it really is like on the level of an enchanted blade, like at its you know, at its peak.
And you know, it's interesting, like, to see someone from like a prestigious clan, you know, to what level we don't know exactly what that means ourselves yet, but for her to be just you know, that's a weapon that only she can use from her prestigious clan. We don't know what happened with them, but she trusts Kazan of all people to like
oh god, choose
her limiter. Like, cause she was like riding pretty hard for like you know, for someone that's like being bossed around by his bum ass. But I mean, that's just, we know what kind of you know, speaks to her like character, and like believing like she's just doing what she thinks is best to protect the citizens that can't protect themselves. And you know, it just so happens that, I mean, she can't really help it, because you would think that if there's ever a place for someone like her to like be a part of, it would be the government, you know, that's over protecting its citizens. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So like, can't really blame her too much, but you know, that's why I say her character is always gonna be interesting. But you know, and it's just one random thing, because we also, you know, can't forget about Tefuku. We do meet Tefuku, and
yeah, just the most chill.
Yeah,
he's just the most like literally
man,
non-problematic.
Chihiro's a cool dude. He seems like a good boy, and yeah, but he's like calling Hakuri a idiot. He's like, oh, he's not like that other idiot. He's not like an idiot like the other guy talking about Hakuri.
Yeah, but he's also straight with Hiyuki. You know, like he'll call it like it is.
Yeah.
But you need to relax.
I mean, we also see like Hiyuki kind of like draw herself back from like that you know, demon like energy of wanting to like just fight and go all out, is right when, you know, she's about to start risking like the public. You know, she prioritizes like cooling herself off and like stopping the attack, and you know, prioritizing, you know, the civilians. So like, as a character, as like she is just as she is presented, and like, I don't, you know, she doesn't put on airs. Like, we could believe her for like the person that she's presented as. Basically, strong showing.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's something that like, you know, the 3 introductions of this volume, or I mean, Hiyuki was technically introduced last volume, I guess, but you know what I mean. Hakuri, Kyora, and Hiyuki, they're all characters that they're like really honest in the way that they're presented. I mean, yeah, of course, Kyora is, you know, he's got a couple of tricks up his sleeve, but he's not even deceiving as a character. He's literally,
he'll like, tell you that he's got shit up his sleeve, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well put. You know, Hakuri, Kyora, and Hiyuki, the 3 of them,
he's
really
too stupid to tell you I got shit up my sleeves. You know, he forgot he has sleeves.
Yeah. But no, it's like you said, like very strong, you know, impressions off the bat by all 3 of these characters, really, and you know, tackling their own themes and making their presence felt in their own ways. Yeah, they're the 3 of them are really great characters.
Yeah, and you know, we also get a little bit more insight on a certain prisoner, and we get to see Hakuri's dad hit his G spot at the end of chapter 21. Made that man twitch.
I'm sorry, what? Excuse me?
Kyoto, when he went to go touch like the Magatsumi and the Sword Saint's twitches, he's edging him just a little bit.
Okay, I was just completely lost.
I was like, man, this dude's really edging the Sword Saint. They about to, my God.
Yeah, I mean, that's the first time we get our first official look really at Kyoto, right?
Yep,
It's
that's
really,
his
right?
like title,
Yeah.
his like name introduction. And he's like,
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, no, that's yeah. And God, I don't remember, is that our first look at the Sword Saint as well?
I think so. I think maybe in the
If it's not our first, it's our best at that point, right? Like that close up of him looking up.
Like, let's see.
God, we're LARPers, Ty.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, hey, it's been a long time since we read volume 2 at least. Oh, you know what? They do show him at the end of volume 2 because they show him when they introduce the other sword masters.
Oh, that's true. Yes. Good point. So yeah, it's our best look at him yet, I guess.
Yeah.
It's our best look at him yet.
We have no idea what he means to the story at this point. It's just like the weight and of the moment. It's like, oh, okay, this guy's got to be something legit because we don't even know what the motherfucker's name is, and we don't find out his name for another like 79 chapters.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, and the role that he plays in this arc is like, pretty huge as well. Like I mean, this arc does introduce like Akamura as well, technically, Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know about introduce, but like, yeah, we get our best.
But the
I know what you're
reveal
saying,
of,
though. I know
like,
what you're saying. Yeah.
The weight of his character, and it's like, sheesh. This, when I forgot just how much this arc does, like a lot of like, like it does some heavy lifting in terms of like important figures in the story.
Yeah, well, see, that's what I was saying. Like the first 2 volumes kind of feels like just kind of getting your feet wet, as it relates to like the world of Kagurabachi and how immersed and how much you know of the world itself. This volume is really when it starts to feel like you're really getting into it, right? Like at least knee deep, because you start finding out about clans like the Sazanami, events like the Rakuzaichi, just like the dynamics between a criminal clan like the Sazanami and the Kamunabi. Like we get a statement that the Kamunabi would not come out unscathed in a war against the Sazanami, right? Like we get the back and forth between Hiyuki and Kasen about how he's like, oh, we're gonna bid on the Shinichi, and she's like, bro, what? Like we can take down this bitch and get the Shinichi in one go. But obviously,
her and Azami could have cleared that thing out.
Yeah, we've talked about that as well, right?
Yeah, crazy.
But yeah, like that's what I really appreciate on top of everything else about like how on so many levels this is really when we start to get to know the wider world of Kagurabachi. And I would even say that no other arc has done it like this since then. Like obviously we're now in the Seitei War arc, and like now we're getting a whole bunch of shit thrown at us just from the perspective that, well, like we went back in time and we're now like diving head first into like the stuff that has just been kind of like looming in the background and things that have only been referenced to. But in terms of a present day arc that kind of fleshes out the world and throws like so much at us, like really when you think about it, the Swordbearer assassination arc doesn't really open up the world in the way that the Rakuzaichi arc does, and neither does Kyoto, neither does the assault on Kamunabi headquarters. So I think that's yet another reason why this arc is like really special, just generally speaking, among other arcs in Kagurabachi.
Yeah, that's fair. No, because like a lot of like the other parts, it's kind of either they're
more focused.
they're more streamlined in like a certain action, or they're filling in like our understanding of something that we already had knowledge of, kind of like the Seitei War arc is doing now. It's kind of like shedding more light on a incomplete puzzle, whereas this is like introducing a whole new puzzle like to us and to like Chihiro, kind of like experiencing the world with Chihiro at the same time.
No, that's a good point. Because a lot of what we're finding out is really just like Chihiro.
It's like we always kind of say that Chihiro's like very logical, and he almost seems like he's too good at dealing with things sometimes, but I mean that isn't always like the case, and not this volume, but like next volume, like the Yura's reveal, there's like Chihiro's decision, and now to bring up this arc, like Chihiro's decision to stay and fight Kiora and the Toe instead of like leave with Shiba. Now of course we know he had a plan for that too, but the fact of him I guess like getting kind of tunnel vision by the the guy that's responsible or that's holding the Magatsumi is right in front of me. If I can get to him now and find a way, like
he had an opportunity, why not take it? Was kind of like his mindset at the moment. And
this is one moment where whether you think he handled it right or wrong doesn't I guess doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, because he did have a backup plan. But just I think in this arc we see that moment kind of appear again, of like Chihiro just like being challenged with something right away, and then maybe not making the best, or not even giving it a second thought, just choosing to go for the the objective in his sights. I do appreciate that about this arc.
Because you bring up an interesting point. Like, I can see why, and obviously we've both have issues regarding this, like at different points, even in terms of like Chihiro always making the right call, or always having a backup plan for something, or just always like you never catch him with with his pants down, right?
Seemingly
like,
handles everything the right way.
Yeah, because even this was like a win-win scenario for him. Like, even when he recognizes that, like, I might have, like, he addresses like the fact that it was his decisions to stay behind, but then he immediately goes like, nobody did anything wrong, and it's obviously because of his plan to give up the N10 and then use that as his way into the storehouse. But I think what that also highlights is this tendency, and of course this is a shonen and these are action characters, so like this isn't really anything crazy, but it's the tendency of these great characters to take risks and gamble, like Yura says, right? Yura, Chihiro, even Kunishige, when you look at like again like the whole decision making behind the Enchanted Blades, Hirohiko, right? I just had to squeeze a Hirohiko mention. This idea of like taking risks, right? And like that's really the only way that most characters, especially when you look at the ones I just brought up, the only way they've gotten their way is by gambling and taking risks, such as what Chihiro pulls in this volume. So like I hadn't even really noticed that at this point, and of course it kind of becomes a pattern later on, which is really when it starts to feel like, oh damn, this guy Chihiro just has everything figured out, right? Whereas Tahir is still early on, and it still just feels like he's a very competent main character, which he is. So yeah, that's kind of like my take at this point, really, and looking back.
Yeah, and I think that the time where it kind of like where he doesn't do it, like the, I guess, do a service to like his decision is takes place next volume when he decides to stay and fights Tenri. But we could
we'll get there.
But I mean, and we talked a lot about so far this episode. It's already been an hour, which is crazy, but like that's how good this volume is. And we talked a lot about like good introductions. Well, let's talk about like a bum. Soya.
Yeah, we do have to talk about Soya, right?
Yeah. Oh my god, what a fucking
it's
cornball.
I think Soya is gonna be a character that at some point, years down the line, we'll be able to like look back and just like really analyze as a sort of like experiment, really, because this guy, I just, to me, it's insane how much like the complexity behind just how much of a bum he is and how hateable and unlikable he is, paired with the like genuinely interesting psychology behind his character. I haven't seen anything like it, really. Because like on one hand, like I said, there's just like, he's a shitbag, really. And of course there's discussions about like how redeemable he is, especially when you consider that this is a shonen. But at the same time, when you have fucking Hakuri throwing himself off like from like a 4th floor or whatever, or not even a 4th floor, like he was well high up, right? But like essentially, being willing to off himself by just jumping,
sheer sight of him.
Yeah, just by seeing Soya pull up and just jump off a building, really, to his death, essentially.
Hakuri's a lot like a Labrador puppy, Labrador Retriever puppy. And imagine like a puppy sees someone and doesn't growl or anything.
Yeah, just immediately wants to like run into the highway. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's what type of emotion someone like Soya evokes.
But there's also so many times where like Hokuzono couldn't really stress it more, that like it seems like he genuinely loves Hakuri. And if you look at like, again, it's toxic. And if you look at like, if we can feel bad for Hakuri because of like the whole environment that he came up in, obviously when we talked about Hakuri earlier, we haven't brought up like the whole the experience with the ice lady. Obviously we didn't even talk about, because we'll get into that next volume, but when it comes to Soya as well, right, like we didn't really even get into that. Just like the environment of like living within a clan like the Sazanami, that in itself, like it just does so much to you, from what like this volume and this arc lets us know, that like there's also something there where you can think of Soya and just think of like how much that shaped his character. But yeah, fuck Soya, right? I just think it's it's funny and interesting. Yeah,
he's trying to pick up the slack of like what he thinks Hakuri needs, since like Kiora turned his back to him.
Yeah, see, that's an interesting take. Yeah,
it's like trying to fill the role of like big brother, mom, and dad, and it just breeds this like overly toxic source of like familial love and care. But no matter how like pure the love and care might be, it's presented, or its application process is through toxicity.
Yeah.
It throttles way too much, even for for someone like Soya. Maybe who knows? We know that he got those extra chapters, so maybe Hokuzono's playing at Soya getting some kind of characterization or understanding happening. Time will tell, but I mean, yeah, for now, dude's a cornball.
Oh yeah.
And he went after your girl Hinao, so there's that too.
Yeah, Shiba did his thing. We get obviously that great panel of Shiba and Soya in the middle of the sky.
Yeah, it's funny. He's like yelling Hakure's name in the background when Hanao's like checking on Hakuri. You just see them in the distant background. Hakure.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but I like how much that's something that again I also noticed about this volume. In the previous volumes we talked about like how cruel like how Kagurabachi immediately lets you know how cruel its world can be, when in previous volumes they were talking about eating Char, obviously because of her
They talked about eating a little girl in the beginning of this volume too.
Yes, exactly. And they also say I wrote down a note here that says like they tell the boss that kid was your type, boss. Or totally your type or something. It was just like, yeah, it's just one of those things that just kind of like it doesn't take you out, because it's quite the opposite. It like, and I don't want to say it draws you in, right? Because that's not what I'm trying to say, but it just like it reminds you really of like the kind of world that these characters are living in, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of the times you got characters, obviously, like we've talked about, like Hakuri, Hinao, and even characters like Shiba, and just like a lot of these characters can be really lighthearted, but like let's not forget exactly the kind of stuff that goes down again in this world. I mean, they even talk about like chopping up Hakuri once they were done with him, you know?
Only they had a symbol of like an agreement of symbol of peace to not bring sorcerers into like the world of like civilians, normal civilians. If only that there was something like that in Kagurabachi. Like so at least sorcery stayed in like to sorcery. But hey, we can't have everything, am I right? Right,
like a clan keeping them all in check.
Right,
and
like
holding
some people can't have mothers,
accountable.
and sorcery can't have that.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm telling you, man. This was like volume 3, because of everything that I've already talked about enough about like the world opening up so much, is really the first volume where we can immediately just start, like you have the Seitei War arc, just, or at least what we've read so far of it, just present in the background for like context purposes as like I'm reading all of this, because these are all things that like we've now seen how things used to be before, and like now we can compare, right? So yeah, it was something else that I couldn't help but notice when it came to like reading this volume, was like the influence that the Seitei War arc had in the way I was perceiving things.
Yeah, no, like facts is like it's such a massive event in their world, and I think like we have yet to really truly feel the just how deep that's gonna go as we're still like drudging our way through it. But I mean, going back to like the we do meet Soya, we talked about, but we also have like the other brothers of Hakuri, the Toe, and this is Tenri, Enji, and Tamaki. And well, that's a sister, but they're like the strongest fighting force in the Sazanami, and we get a good like brief fight between Chihiro against them minus Soya. Shiba goes to handle Soya, which I also like to kind of call like this. We get the callback. This isn't the callback, but it'll be called back to next volume. It's like, sorry, how's my timing?
My timing, yeah.
I always think I always thought that was a pretty cool, callback moment. I mean, the fight's really short. It's really just about like, it's really just about like Kiora coming to like the realization of what's going on here and how they. Yeah, he's like, I had a feeling that it could be, but I didn't want to think. And the moment of like Shiba's talking about like, oh look, you're shaking, you ain't gonna kill your son. And Kyora's like, no, I'll kill him. He's like,
do not be mistaken.
Yeah, like I hate to have to come to that, but I will.
Yeah, he says rage and sadness. Again, back to glazing Kyoura, really, because even the moment when he puts 2 and 2 together and summons Hakuri is just so cold. Like, the way he's sitting, the way Hakuri just falls, like a, I don't know, like like a corpse on the ground, just like the way the Hokazono like kind of frames that whole moment. And he says, you led him here, or you led them here. It's just like really good stuff from Kyoura. And like, yeah, the fact that he lets Shiba know, like, yeah, man, don't I'll kill him,
yeah, don't push me.
This is really when we start to get like a deeper look into his motivations as well, and like just how far he's willing to go to get what he wants, and like ultimately what satisfies his own character, what drives his own character as well. Because we see how he also reflects on Hakuri's value, like genuinely for the first time. He genuinely feels like Hakuri was valuable in that moment only because he was able to get him the N10. In that moment, and he now wields, or at this point wields, both Makatsumi and N10.
On the opposite end, it shows just how much Chihiro values Hakuri presently.
Genuinely, yeah.
Yeah, like, it's like the two, shifts, and like, or not even shifts, because one is like the, re-solidifying what he already knew about how his father felt. Whereas like he's found value and purpose in like someone else, like who is like directly, opposing force to where he once was. And it's like, it's like it's like helping him validate who he is. And like, maybe it wasn't just, I could see that kind of playing into, or I mean, we know it does play into like him being able to like tap deep down and awaken his sorcery later on. It's like, he's found a group of people that like, they made him realize like, oh, it's not me, it's where I used to be. It's my like, it's not, because of who I am, it was because of the atmosphere I was in. Now I'm around people who like see, me for what I am, or the value I can bring, or just see me as a person. And that enable, having that kind of like positive, that positive influence in his life allows him to, lock in and awaken, and it start like, I think the big massive leap starts with like, and to be fair, this is like them playing hot potato and how important they are to each other, because it's like here Hakuri, saying that sword suits you to Chihiro is what enables and gives Chihiro the confidence to be able to trade the sword off. And like the sword does suit me. I can be able to tap in from far away. I can lock in, and our connection's stronger than being in tow of each other. It's like they just keep playing back and forth their volley, and just how much like their dynamic so well with each other. Of like, all right, I did this. Oh, now he went big this time, and he went big that time. Like, it's a nice beginning of a duo.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Because this is also like when Chihiro, like, you also can't help but respect him and appreciate him more as a main character, and like what he stands on, and like what he's willing to do to stand on those core beliefs. Right? Because for him to sacrifice N10, like, it's and that reality sets in when they kind of fall back, and Hakuri's all stressed because Chihiro had to give up N10 because of him, essentially. It's kind of like that first moment, especially when we have a moment like the end of part 1, where like we know that the good guys lose. This is really kind of like a taste of that, of like returning back to home base, or returning to home base defeated. And like that feeling, like that really sets in, right? But Chihiro, like, he just has a way, and that's like, that only kind of sends him out, like it sends him down this whole other journey of really furthering the true realm, right? Remotely activating N10 and doing everything that he goes on to do, in the next volume. But yeah, Hakuri really serves as a catalyst, just like they're the catalyst for Hakuri. And all he needed was really for them to feed that growth. All he needed was like just nurturing his ability to believe, like his belief in himself, and that leading to him essentially like awakening. So yeah, it's like I said, like we're starting to see like the foundation and the roots, the seed of what pays off down the line, and it's actually really well done.
Yeah, they both play off each other really well, and they both like influence the others like growth, which when one rises up, it just helps like lift the other one up to the point where they could see their own value and then have their breakthrough. And like I think it's one cool thing is like Shiba kind of sees Chihiro as almost like the like I don't know, like the kind of like his like the green light for like the people checker. Like Shiba just trusts Chihiro's judge of character and things like that.
Yes.
Like, I think was something I picked up this time around on the read through, where I didn't really get the first read through experience, but I think that was like a nice little nuance too.
Not to deep it too much, but you think it's kind of like because we know that Akamura was Kunishige's best, like his most trusted ally, man. They say, right? So obviously, like there's a judge of character there. We have yet to find out exactly how Shiba felt about Akamura, but obviously there's been some discussion about him being supportive, let's just say, right? So do you think that's kind of like subtle writing from Hokuzono about how Shiba trusts Chihiro's judge of character because he no longer trusts his own judge of character?
It could be, right? Maybe he looks to the light of the Rokuhira eyes to like kind of validate those around him instead of having to do it himself.
Yeah, like, but not just the Rokuhira.
More like just like seeing errors in his own past in a sense. But,
yeah.
I could definitely see him like using Chihiro as kind of like the vibe check,
Yeah. Because he must have respected. I mean, we know he almost certainly does. Chiaki as well. So again, maybe I'm reading a bit like too much into it. We really have yet to find out how he really feels about Akamura.
Yeah, that's gonna stem. That'll dictate everything, really.
Yeah, but you bring up a good point. His belief in Chihiro's judge of character and Chihiro's decision making, because he essentially lets him do whatever he wants. Really, he trusts that Chihiro's gonna make the right choice regardless what the situation is. Really, now that we're able to kind of like look back and think like, man, Chiaki and Kunishige and the history that Shiba had with both, and knowing exactly how Chihiro came up, and even like his responsibilities looking after his father, like how much goes into Shiba genuinely letting Chihiro do what he does, right? Because we obviously, and there's obviously like a lot of talk in the community about like the blood on Shiba's hands, because he's just let Chihiro take on this path of revenge, right? And obviously like there's something there, but I think also like on the flip side is what I'm bringing up right now, the fact that like how he sees Chihiro. But yeah, that's another conversation for another day, maybe a topic video at one point. But yeah, more kind of like a bit of fleshing out of Shiba's character as we continue to see him interact with characters like Hakuri. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting to like the tail end of the volume here.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, the Mr. Inazuma,
Mr. Inazuma. Yes.
The aura. We talked about introduction, so I just wanted to make sure because the last
don't
chapters,
forget about Mr. Inazuma.
Yeah, we can't forget about him because like how the volume ends is crazy. The return.
It is.
And like that's just I love that reveal, but can't forget to like shout out Mr. Inazuma.
Yeah, definitely.
He's a child. He's a little boy.
Yeah, and I always like, just for the memes, I always like to dunk on him, even though he's literally like a little kid. But fuck them kids. So it's I love Char though. Don't fuck with Char.
Char's she's based. I love like the book of him like scratched out scared, but it says like I will. Like I thought that was pretty gas.
Yeah, it's like real talk. That his moment is nice. It's a nice moment. Again, it serves as a layup for more Chihiro, Aura moments, and not just like Aura, but again like moments where we can really like root for him. Like, damn, yeah, Chihiro, like that's the guy. Like that's what's up. Pulling up, saving the little kid. After you have like
2 arms too.
With 2 arms, yeah. And you got like the worst goons in the world in terms of like how much, like I said, just like how much like just how bad they are, like in terms of like shit people. Like they literally like fucking get satisfaction out of completely shitting all over these little kids. So
didn't you just shit on a little kid just like a minute ago?
I can do it though.
I'm just playing. Nah, but you're right though. Like literally, like it's like they think they're a big bad, and then an 18-year-old comes and puts them in their place.
Yeah. But the Mystery Inazuma stuff is just wholesome. It's just good to see. Yeah. And I think I'll say this: it isn't really like Mystery Inazuma isn't the focus, like in what I'm about to say, but I also like how you see moments like that, like Inazuma just running into like the face of danger, running into these goons to try to save his sister. Hakuri does the same thing before he meets Chihiro, or like what leads up to like him meeting Chihiro is like running right into these goons to try to be a hero. But the interesting thing about Hakuri, which we talked a bit about earlier, and I wanted to bring it up, is the fact that like Hakuri came up in this world. Like unlike Mr. Inazuma, who's like clearly like a little kid, he's much younger than Hakuri, he's very naive, he doesn't know exactly what he's getting himself into. Like Hakuri knew exactly what he was doing and getting himself into when he ran into those goons and trying to make a difference or whatever. So I think it really, like, again, I wanted to bring it up because it speaks more like, it speaks to like Hakuri's character. And again, like in contrast with just like the pieces of shit that like are the Sazanami. So like to me, Mr. Inazuma like helps highlight that as well, because we were talking about like Chihiro being like really like sheltered as he came up, like living isolated with Kunishige. Chihiro's only been exposed to this world for like the last 3 years, and granted it was like a very rude awakening after the murder of his father, but it's just very interesting to see how like all these kids, like how they come up in this world, and like how the things that happen in this world like shape them differently. And that applies to like Char, Hakuri, Chihiro, Mystery Inazuma, even Hiyuki, who like now we're starting to see really like in the circumstances that like she was born into. So I think that's one thing that like is really strong about Kagurabachi when we talk about like the burdens that these kids carry. And in a couple of more volumes down the line, we'll have another character which we can say the same about. So yeah, I'm sorry, I got a bit out of track there.
You're good. I mean, really, that's basically does it for the volume. I mean, Cloud Gouger returns. That's a
Yes.
aura-filled moment, and that's where the volume really ends as the Rakuzaichi begins. Seeing
Banger.
him bring that bitch, yeah. I mean, that's just the way that like end the volume off. Like everyone, the talk has been like, "Where's Cloud Gouger? Where's the rest of Cloud Gouger?" And he's like, "I broke it," and then he's like, like that's why he could trade N10 because he's got, wielding that bitch.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy because that it's at the end of the line, right? But it was still a huge gamble, but he was willing to take it. He knew that there was just enough for him to get the job done with it.
Yeah, man. I mean, we still got like that thing might be at its end, but it's got a couple more like super gas, moments ahead of it.
Yeah, it could still blow up a country or two.
And, lock in moment, all that. I'm looking forward to like, talking about the rest of this. Once we get Volume 4 Redux underway, we'll have to save some of this conversation for that. But anything you want to say before we wrap this up?
Yeah, last couple of things I want to say is Mystery Nazuma. That's yet like another thing that like that whole like moment of his before Chihiro saves him. It's like the perfect setup for a Cloud Gouger reintroduction. It's done so well, and seeing like the flicker of Cloud Gouger before we get that full page of both blades on his waist is just so hype. It's so hype. One thing I wasn't able to bring up during this recording because I never saw like where exactly to fit it is that I really like how obviously Sojo, which we talked about, but he really makes his presence felt like immediately after being killed off, right? Like anytime that like there's talk about innocence dying to the enchanted blades, there's like we get what's like the jump scare image that has become a kind of like a meme now in the community of Sojo, and we get it twice this volume, and I just love how his presence continues to be felt, and the fact that the volume ends on Cloud Gouger is so perfect because Sojo and Cloud Gouger were both like probably the best things of the previous arc, really, in terms of writing aside, right? Like all the good stuff aside, when you look at like these specific things that like fans really got hyped about and readers really enjoyed seeing in the story, seeing Cloud Gouger back and seeing Sojo being called back to, I think is great.
Yeah, it's like gone but never forgotten.
Yeah,
like it's always within reach, and I think Hoku's put himself in a good spot, or like his usage of it was handled with care.
Yeah.
But I mean, that'll do it for me. I think I said everything I have to say. Banger volume, of course, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, big facts. That's going to be another fun talk.
Yeah, well, y'all have a good one. Stay tuned for more information. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and check the link in the description below to join the Discord server. All right, guys. Peace.
Peace.